been that kind of night. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be my January TBR, and because I switched up something in my December TBR to fill in a BookTube Secret Santa video that will come out on Monday, the 21st, I threw a wrench in my TBR once again and switched some things up. But because of that book that I will be talking about, it made me want to finish this trilogy, so I will be doing that in January instead of continuing Wheel of Time. So, I will get back to Wheel of Time at some point. So here is what I'm reading in January. And of course, starting off with... Yeah, guys, this is another gigantic epic fantasy series. This is part of Mike's book reviews, read-along of Malazan, Book of the Fallen. Malazan, Book of the Fallen. Malazan. I'm saying Malazan. But yeah, so Gardens of the Moon is going to be happening in January. Most likely January 1st, because I think that's probably when we're all going to start it. There is a massive amount of people that are starting this in January, and I'm one of them. What's cool is, because I'm a doofus and I hate mass market paperbacks, even though they're cheap, I hate how thick they are, so I went with the trade. And what's good about the trade paperback is it lulls you into a false sense of security by being about 500 pages. But if you look at the text, it is quite small. But also, I'm not going to collect this in mass market or hardcover because those are impossible to find and they're incredibly expensive when you do find them. But the trade paperbacks are anywhere from like 12 to 20 bucks a piece. So we're reading maybe once a month, maybe once every 2 months. I can shell out the extra cash for the trade paperbacks and get the entire series, assuming that I like it. Since this is more of a militaristic fantasy and not quite as slow as some aspects of Wheel of Time or some other massive series, Shannara, things like that, I think I'm going to like this a lot. I know it's dense. I know people say constantly that Gardens of the Moon just throws a lot of crap at you. You're not going to know what's going on. You just kind of have to go with it and figure it out later. I'm totally up for this. I hear nothing but pretty great things from a lot of people on BookTube specifically about this. A lot of guys I trust really love this series. Philip Chase, Iskar Jarek, Alan, Andy. There's a ton of people that have read Malazan and talk very, very highly of it, so I am incredibly excited to begin this journey in January. There's 2 more books that I absolutely am reading in January. It's not going to change for anything. And there's also one carryover. So right now, since I am absolutely finishing Faithful and the Fallen in December and January, next up, because this is just the month of gigantic books, so Jesus Christ. Wrath by John Gwynne, which will be book 4 of the Faithful and the Fallen series. Now, I have put this series off for too long. Back when I read books 1 and 2, which are Malice and Valor, I reviewed them both. I was in love with the series and then read a bunch of other stuff. It got pushed to the back burner. I'm trying to just wrap some of these things up before continuing some other things that I also need to continue. So the series is fantastic. John Gwynne is an amazing writer. He is able to write and weave together a epic fantasy world and series full of fantastic characters, epic action, great world building, great lore, all without overbearing amount of description, which some people absolutely love. I do every once in a while. I can't take too much of it at once, which is probably why I stopped temporarily with Wheel of Time after 5 books, just because it was a lot. And not to say that this is like streamlined or trimming the fat or anything, but this, I feel like John Gwynne does so much with the page count and the word count that it's pretty fantastic and incredible. Next up, and here's why my TBR changed for December, and why it's also not even I mean, I hadn't done it for January yet, but this is why this is absolutely being read in January. This would be The Burning God by RF Kuang, who one of my patrons and awesome buddies, Hillary, bought me. Thank you very much, because she absolutely loved the series and knew I wanted to finish it. And I didn't have this yet, so thank you, Hillary. This series is probably the best grimdark series that I am currently reading, and I would argue some of the best grimdark that is being done right now in the fantasy space. I loved the Poppy War earlier this year. I believe I had it, if not a on like a honorary mention. It was one of my top books that I had read, kind of like the halfway point. The Dragon Republic kicked the Poppy Wars ass in every conceivable way, and it's absolutely one of the best books that I've read all year long. I absolutely love those books in the series, and the Burning God has to happen. I'm not going to put this off at all. I wanted to read it, honestly. The night that I finished the Dragon Republic, I was so hyped up and ready to go that I wanted to read the Burning God immediately. I'm not going to. I don't want to throw everything out for it, but it is absolutely happening in January. This is based on a lot of real world things that happen in Japan, in China, back during the Poppy Wars, the Sino-Japanese war that I believe the second one that occurred. I know Alan, I'm going to link his video down below, has at least a part one of like the real life tie-ins of the Poppy War. It's fantastic stuff. Go watch that. But just what Kuang pulls from real life, the horrific shit that happened during these wars and just in China at this time is truly astonishing to learn about. And then just to have that in a fantasy world, I mean, things get really, really up sometimes in these books. But beyond just how grim and terrible some of this can get, it's also just a fantastic story. The magic is interesting, and that all grew with the Dragon Republic. Gwynne, as unlikable as she can be, you can't help but root for her as a main protagonist. She is fantastic. A lot of the side characters are being fleshed out better. The world just feels so alive and real. I love it. The action's fantastic. The level that that these books go to is just something I haven't read before, and it's maybe Dark Age by Pierce Brown kind of rivals it as far as just like how dark some of this stuff gets. But it's fantastic. I highly recommend this to anybody that loves grimdark and kind of violent fantasy. Read these books, and this is going to be one of the best reads of 2021. I'm calling that now. So that's the 3 that I absolutely am reading in January. I anticipate that's going to take probably 2.5 to 3 weeks for all of them, especially since Malazan is so dense. Wrath is a big book. Burning God's a little bit smaller and they read faster, but I'm giving myself some breathing room with Malazan being on the slate. So a carryover from December is going to be Death Masks. This is going to have to get cut from my December TBR, most likely, because I would rather wrap up Book of the Ancestor with Holy Sister. Since Dresden, like I'm so far behind on Dresden, I'm like 15 books back or whatever it is. I'd rather wrap up these other series and then get back to, Dresden, Wheel of Time, and Malazan. So like that's going to be a lot of my 2021 is going to be continuing Wheel of Time. That will absolutely, probably not starting in January, starting in February, will be back to a 1 book a month read for me. I promise. I'm going to regret that, aren't I? Wheel of Time is going to be 1 book a month. Dresden is going to go back to at least 1 book a month because those are shorter books. They're much quicker reads. And then I'm going to just, I don't know. I mean, I've got all kinds of stuff, guys. I do need to start working back in some more sci-fi. So where I do find time, especially with these gigantic epic series that I'm going to read, I am going to mix in some other things and get back to a lot of my sci-fi that I did have planned, and probably mix in some horror as well. I don't have a lot of it, but I do want to start reading some Stephen King, so I will mix in that a little bit more next year. It won't be a bulk of what I read. Fantasy is still my number 1, but I am going to start mixing in hopefully 1 sci-fi book a month, and then a horror book maybe every other month. We'll see. I don't have it planned out yet. Just stay tuned for that. The last thing I do want to mention, though, is in addition to Hillary being awesome and sending me the Burning God, come here. My buddy Connor in Discord sent me Senlin Ascends and Hyperion. So Hyperion was on my most anticipated sci-fi books that I want to read, so I am absolutely looking forward to getting to some Dan Simmons. I constantly hear about how good Hyperion is. Everybody recommends it as like, I'm getting into sci-fi, what do I read? Hyperion comes up all the time. So I will 100% be reading that next year. And Senlin Ascends, again, I'm going to mention Alan. He absolutely adores this book and Josiah Bancroft writing. That series is like one of his favorite things ever. So I'm really hoping that I like it. It does sound, as many times as I've had this series explained by various people, whether it's Alan or Elliot or whoever explains Senlin Ascends, I still don't exactly know what to expect. But people that I know and really take their opinion to heart, speak very highly of it. So I am anticipating that I am going to enjoy it a lot. So I'm looking forward to starting that at some point next year, once I get some other stuff done and behind me, so that I can stop just starting everything. I'm thinking about this, and I still haven't started First Law, so that's probably going to be February. I wanted it to be January, but I really need to get back to Wheel of Time. But that is going to wrap up my January TBR, so I would love to know what some of your favorite books of the year were, what you're looking forward to the most in 2021, what you're planning on reading January, if you plan out even a month ahead. I'm not one of these people. I can't plan out like my entire year. There's so much stuff I want to read that I'm probably going to end up starting 18 more series and finishing 5. Who knows? We'll see. But like and subscribe. As always, do hit up Patreon if you want to support the channel financially. That is, of course, always optional, but always appreciated. Do jump in Discord, though, or leave me a comment down below and continue the conversation there, because I do love talking about books. Talk about them every day, all day, pretty much. I spend entirely too much time in Discord, but that's what we're here to do, right? So until next time, everybody, keep reading.